The 1992 Los Angeles Uprising, the Cambodian genocide, Japanese American incarceration. What you know isn't always the full story. Our new podcast, Inheriting, about Asian American and Pacific Islander families where the past is personal.
Korean Americans, we call it Sa-i-gu.
Did you ever realize when you were a child that you became an orphan?
Camp was such a hard time. How do you think you got through it?
Listen to Inheriting from Al-Essa Studios and the NPR Network, wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to Whoa! Potluck.
And hey, you're listening to Books and Boba, a book club and podcast featuring books by Asian and Asian American authors. My name is Marvin Yue.
And I'm Rira Yu.
And we are here for our September 2024 mid-month book news check-in, where we go over the latest Asian American book and publishing news. As always, Books and Boba is supported in part by our listeners over at patreon.com/booksandboba. So if you'd like to become a bigger part of our book club, head on over. Our Patreon supporters gain access to our members-only Discord server, as well as monthly bonus podcasts. So definitely appreciate everyone who's supporting us so far. We are in the middle of September. The heat wave has broken, although wildfires are still going on. Rira, how's the ash situation up there for you?
There's no ash, but I'm so glad that the heat wave is over. I saw this tweet like not that long ago, and it was a screenshot of Frodo after he had tossed the ring into Mount Doom, and he's like, "It is done." And I'm like, yes, finally, heat wave. It is done. We survived. Oh my gosh. It was like 111 degrees, you guys. It was nuts.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in the middle of our typical delayed LA summer. So the heat hasn't completely gone away, but at least we're not looking at triple digits over the next few months, just like mid-90s at worst.
It was so bad that my AC was set to like 80 degrees because we didn't want to like make it so expensive because we had to literally put it on like 24/7. So, oh my God.
Yeah, well, hopefully wherever you are, there's inclement weather everywhere. There's like hurricanes on its way, tropical storms. There's a big typhoon in Vietnam. Weather's just getting more extreme. So just be careful,
we had
everybody.
an earthquake today too.
We did.
I don't know if you,
it was a long one
yeah.
too. It was like a good 10, 15 seconds of rumbling.
It was like a 4.7 earthquake, so it was pretty significant.
Yeah, I mean, usually we've had a couple earthquakes these past few months, which the frequency becoming shorter may not be a good sign. I think this one, I don't know which fault this was in, but as someone not from California originally, like, have you found yourself acclimated to our little earthquakes so far?
Oh, 100%. I think for the last like 3 earthquakes, I was asleep. And I did not even bother to get out of bed.
Were you here for any of the big ones?
I think so. Like, I do remember one a couple of years back where it lasted for quite a bit and like everything in my apartment was shaking. And we literally had to like go into the middle of the room where there was like no furniture so that like nothing fell on us or nothing would fall over on us. But yeah, I've acclimated quite well, I would say, to California earthquakes.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I was here for the Northridge earthquake, which was a 6.7. And that one definitely like threw us around a little bit. That was a pretty bad one. So we haven't had anything that bad. That was like 1994, I want to say. But anyways, we're not here to talk about the weather and earthquakes. We are here to talk about the latest Asian American book and publishing news. And as always, we start off our mid-month check-ins by highlighting some of the latest publishing announcements for books by Asian and Asian American authors. Thanks, as always, to Ribay for compiling this list from announcements on Publishers Weekly, social media, and other sources. So yeah, let's get started. Rira, what is our first book deal for the month?
All right, so our first deal is FSG acquired North American rights to Flashlight by National Book Award winner Susan Choi, the author of Trust Exercise. Flashlight is a thrilling, globe-spanning new novel that mines questions of memory, language, identity, nationality, what it means to be in a family and to lose one, what it means to love someone and to lose them, and how these losses shape who we are. Publication is set for June 2025. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, Suzanne Choi is the author of Trust Exercise. It was the National Book Award winner back in 2019. This was a book that was on my TBR pile, so hopefully we'll be able to get to it at some point. Like, I've heard really good things about it, so I'm sure her new book, Flashlight, is going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, and sounds like her new book dives into themes like diaspora. So yeah, congrats to Susan on the book deal. Okay, next up, Penguin acquired world rights to Let It Be a Tale, Palestinian journalists on survival and resistance, edited by Zahra Hankir. The book is an anthology of original essays by reporters under Israeli occupation in Gaza and the West Bank. The anthology will also include a foreword by Palestinian poet Mossab Abu Toha. The collection will examine the devastation and perseverance witnessed during the deadliest period for journalists on record, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. A pub date has yet to be announced.
A very timely book, especially if you guys have been following the news that's been happening in Gaza and also the recent attacks on the West Bank. We're seeing a lot of journalists being targeted for attacks. So I feel like this is a really important book, and just getting a glimpse of like how dangerous and important an important job that Palestinian journalists do. So this sounds like something that I would definitely pick up.
Yeah, especially in a time when information and disinformation is so prevalent. You know, it's always important to have journalists on the ground kind of covering the truth and letting people know what's actually going on. Hopefully the pub date will be sooner rather than later because, like you mentioned, it is an ongoing conflict. And I think, you know, the more media we have out there going over these things, the hope is more people will become aware of like what's going on, right?
I think everyone is aware of what's going on at this point. But, you know, it is sad because I am getting less news from the ground because so many of the journalists have passed away. And I think that's why like this anthology is even more important than ever, because it's like I wonder if some of these journalists are even going to live past like 2 years from now. So to have their words immortalized in an anthology like this, I think it's really great. Okay, so let's move on to our next book deal. In an exclusive submission, Little Brown acquired The Singular Life of Aria Patel by Samira Ahmed, the author of Internment and This Book Won't Burn. The book is about a science-minded teenage girl who gets a second chance at love when she falls through the multiverse one fateful day. Publication is set for summer 2025. We've had Samira Ahmed on our show, and we talked about her book, This Book Won't Burn. I forgot which episode it was, but it was a really awesome talk.
Yeah, it was pretty recent, right? It was a couple months ago, this past year for sure.
I like definitely remember Samira talking about this book when we asked her, oh, like, what do you have next in the pipe? And I remember when she mentioned multiverse, I was like, yeah, like everything everywhere all at once. Like that is definitely like a trope that I really, really like. So
yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed Samira's past books, and it looks like this one will take a more lighter tone. You know, her past few books have been pretty heavy on the social issues, and this one seems more like a sci-fi rom-com, which is nice. It's nice to write something. It's nice to see her try her hand at something a little bit more lighthearted and fun.
Yeah, this book sounds a lot lighter than her previous books, which, you know, you mentioned very heavy on social issues and also very intense. Just, you know, the thought of getting a second chance to confess your crush to someone and to see if a relationship works out. I feel like that is a pretty cute concept.
Yeah, so looking forward to the new book from Samira. Next up, Delacorte Romance bought Star, Stripes, and Summer Nights by Celeste Dador. Pitched as Aaron Sorkin meets Gilmore Girls, the book is about a headstrong Filipino-American first daughter who desires a normal teen life away from her mother's presidency, and a small-town boy who prefers to be behind the camera, not in front of it. Both teens find fireworks when they work to revive a 4th of July festival to redeem her image and save his family's business. Publication is slated for summer 2026.
This is giving me like 2000s rom-com, like The President's Daughter, Garden State. Not She's the Man, but shoot, I forgot like what.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that Amanda Bynes film with what's his face? The guy who played Darcy.
Yeah, What a Girl Wants from 2003. Yeah, I freaking love that movie too. I cannot believe I forgot the title. But yeah, it's giving me like 2000s rom-com vibes. Only we have Filipino characters.
Yeah, and I guess this takes place in a fictional near future where there is a Filipino-American president, which is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I mean, take me out of this darkest timeline.
Yeah, and definitely got those, meet cute, small town boy, city girl, Hallmark movie vibes, right?
Yeah. All right, our next book deal is Salam Reads acquired debut author Raidah Shah Idil's How to Free a Jinn. The middle grade fantasy novel is about a curious girl named Inshira who is forced to move from Australia to her birthplace of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, to take care of her ailing grandmother, only to discover that not only can she see Jinn, but she's about to inherit one. Publication is set for fall 2025.
Yeah, this sounds like a fantasy take on like that reverse fish out of water, right? I did move back to Taiwan when I was a kid, when my brother was born, I think to give my parents, some time to take care of the newborn. But even then, that was only temporary, and I was very young. I was like 2 or 3. So
no
to
trauma.
me, that was just like an adventure, right? I mean, moving back as a preteen or even teen, that's gotta be tough.
Yeah, that's tough. I talked about this briefly in our episode The Magical Language of Others by E.J. Koh. I talked about how I could have had that life because my dad was promoted and they were like, hey, pack your bags, come back to Korea. And I was like, what? I'm about to go into high school. Like my life is, I don't know, like how am I going to pass school in Korea? It's a totally different language and curriculum. It's like how, like my teenage brain couldn't just process it. And yeah, just it's an experience that a lot of diasporans go through nowadays, and this sounds like a very fun, fantastical twist to it.
Yeah, especially like the line about her inheriting a Jinn. I wonder if like that gives me Pokemon vibes. Like maybe they're like Jinn trainers, But it'll be interesting to see how this mesh of genres come together. So congrats to Raidah on the book deal. All right, next up, Living Corrido bought world English rights to Okchundang Candy by Jung-soon Go, translated from Korean by Erin Park. The graphic novel/picture book hybrid traces a girl's relationship with her beloved grandparents across several decades. Publication is slated for spring 2025.
So Okchundang is like a marble-looking candy. It's very colorful. It's flat. When I say marble, I mean there's like marbling in the candy. And it's actually a traditional Korean candy made in North Korea. So I'm guessing that the grandfather in the story, or the grandparents in the story, they are from North Korea. This candy is like used in a lot of traditional ceremonies. It's used for 제사, which is kind of like you set up a table for your ancestors and you have like all the food there. So that's like one of the things that you do. And also like for like, I forgot what age, but like maybe 60th, 70th birthdays, you give those out. So yeah, I mean, I'm guessing because it's a very traditional candy, I'm guessing it's going to explore, very traditional Korean roots and, how as diasporans, we relate to that, how that culture is passed on through our grandparents.
Yeah, but not necessarily diasporans, right? Because this is a translated work.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I forgot. Yeah. All right. So our next book deal is in a 7-publisher auction. Random House won Nest of Tongues by National Book Award finalist Randy Ribay. A YA paranormal horror novel inspired by Filipino mythology, the story is about 2 Manananggal siblings who, after being targeted by a monster hunter, must defend their secrets, their home, and themselves. Publication is slated for summer 2026.
Yeah, we just had Randy Ribay on this show to talk about his latest novel, Everything We Never Had. And I gotta say, this is kind of a departure, right, from his past. I guess not necessarily, because he has been writing those Avatar: The Last Airbender novelizations, which I think probably prepared him to write his own paranormal fantasy novel, right?
Yeah. And of course, like, I love the fact that he's staying He's still exploring like Filipino culture in his books. I just looked up what manananggal is. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing that probably, but the picture looks terrifying. According to Wikipedia, it means remover, and it is a creature that is able to separate its upper torso from the lower part of its body. They have fangs and wings to give them vampire-like appearance. Yeah, they look quite demonic. What is it about Southeast Asian mythological creatures that are why are they so scary?
I mean, East Asian creatures are also pretty terrifying. Like there's that one Japanese one that's just a head.
Oh no, I feel like there's something about Southeast Asian ghosts that like I don't know. There's just like a new level of terror. And I'm just saying this as someone who has watched like Thai horror movies and Vietnamese horror movies, and I'm just like, wow, much more intense than Korean horror movies that I've seen.
Yeah, well, always looking forward to new work from Randy. And if you haven't listened to our past episode, definitely check it out because we had a really great conversation with them. But yeah, moving on, Knopf bought in a 2-book deal Every Single Splendor by APA LA Honor Award winner May Respicio. Another untitled middle grade novel was also part of the deal. Every Single Splendor tells the empowering story of 12-year-old Gabriel Bayani, who stumbles upon a mysterious old family photo and sets out to find the story behind it, discovering his family's link to the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, where more than 1,000 Filipinos were brought from the Philippines and put on display. Publication is planned for spring 2026. So I think this is talking about the World's Fair where they essentially brought over, I think they recreated a Filipino village and like brought in a ton of people to be basically a indigenous display for the fair.
Oh, that is not a good look at all. But it's something that I have not heard about. So just goes to show that having books that are centered on historical events like this that are not really taught in school, it's very important to young readers. Yeah,
I think they mentioned it in the PBS special Asian Americans because it's one of the earlier like records of Asians in America. And it's something that like these white people did a lot. Like there's also the story of like the first Chinese American woman to be brought over, and she was part of a big old exhibit too. I think there's a couple plays about that as well. So human zoos, I think that's what it is.
Yikes. I mean, we read a book that was about a character who is Maori and they come to Victorian England and they become like a human exhibit. I forgot what book it was. I mean,
that's the thing with like, especially like this age of like white colonialism is they're very much in that like Rudyard Kipling, like obsessed with the white man bringing civilization to the quote unquote savages, right? Like definitely a time when there was a lot of like just overt white supremacy going on.
I just remembered the book. It's The Imaginary Lives of James Poneke, and it is written by Tina Macaretti. That is a previous book club pick. So if you guys want to listen to that episode, you can. All right, so our next book deal is Make Me a World bought world rights to A Zombie Day, the debut picture book from Prince medalist and NBA finalist An Na, and it is going to be illustrated by August Zhang. When Suni, a zombie, starts at a new school, her first day is filled with mishaps and misunderstandings. But ultimately, everyone realizes just how amazing Suni truly is. Publication is slated for summer 2026.
This sounds cute, but I feel like this should have come out in October, right? This seems like a great like Halloween book, but maybe this will make sure that it's in classrooms in time for October.
Yeah, that's why Halloween books usually come out a little bit before Halloween. Now, is this a school that other zombies go to, or is Suni the only zombie going to this school? Because I can imagine some shenanigans you can get into if you're the only non-human there. Yeah. But it sounds very fun and cute. It kind of reminds me of like Scooby-Doo and very like Monster High kind of vibes.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, our next book deal. Charles Birch bought A Space for Nina, a debut picture book by author-illustrator Karen Ko. The book celebrates family bonds and creative joy. as it follows a budding Korean-American artist looking for a space to create in her own increasingly crowded house. Publication is slated for fall 2026.
It sounds like this is someone who lives in a multi-generational house or lives with other families, and I can just, I'm kind of seeing like a mural happening, because it says like a space to create in her increasingly crowded house. But it could just mean setting up a little studio in a corner, not actually painting the walls of your home. Actually, that's probably bad if you are renting and you don't own your house. But
I think everyone needs a little like creative nook in their house, especially if it's like becoming more and more crowded, right? So definitely a relatable endeavor.
Yeah. All right. So our final book deal is Tor Books acquired at auction North American rights to Wen-yi Lee's When They Burn the Butterfly, a sapphic fantasy duology in which a schoolgirl becomes entangled with a magical fire-starting girl gang in the criminal underworld of 1970s post-colonial Singapore. And the book is pitched for fans of Fonda Lee, R.F. Kuang, and Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Publication is planned for fall 2025. Yo, when I heard the premise, I was like, I am getting Jade City vibes.
Yeah, I mean, Jade City is definitely inspired by Southeast Asia in like this time period, so I definitely see where that comes from. You know what's better than one fire starting girl from the Poppy War? A whole gaggle of them. Right?
A whole gang of them. A whole like biker gang full of them.
Yeah, this sounds like it could be a lot of fun, especially if they're all, kissing each other, right? Like a sapphic fantasy. They are fun to read, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, it's kind of giving me like Sailor Moon vibes as well, only if the Sailor Scouts were, not superheroes, but like kind of villains and criminals, because it's like a girl gang who start fires and they're magical. So I'm like, magical schoolgirls but criminals.
Yeah, and especially in 1970s, like for people who don't know, Singapore, especially post-colonial Singapore, is still very much like the ruling class is still very much Chinese, and culture is very much based on like Confucian. There's what I'm trying to say. It's they're definitely going against patriarchy here, and always down to see magical girls fight against patriarchy.
Yep, down with the patriarchy. My favorite topic. All right, so that is a wrap up on book deals. And we have one big piece of news, and it's that the National Book Awards announced the long lists for young people's literature and translated literature nominees. We're just going to go through them. So the Young People's Literature Award long list nominees who are of Asian descent. We have Everything We Never Had by Randy Ribay. And the book follows the journeys of 4 generations of Magabal boys as they navigate assimilation, their masculinity and anxieties, and finding their own paths in America. We talked about this book with Randy in our most recent episode. Quite in depth. And I really enjoyed reading it. So I'm really glad that it got nominated for a National Book Award. Next, we have Kareem Between by Shifa Saltagi Safadi. And it is a verse novel, and it chronicles the story of a Syrian-American Muslim teen who is stuck in the middle of cultures, parents, and countries as he courageously forges his own moral compass. I remember seeing Kareem Between kind of like in my local bookstore. It seemed to be selling pretty well. So I'm not surprised that National Book Award nominated Kareem Between. So congratulations to Shifa. And the final book in this list is The First State of Being by Erin Entrada Kelly. And the book follows Michael Rosario, who is preparing for the impending Y2K crisis by stockpiling supplies and catastrophizing. His life is forever altered by the arrival of Ridge, a mysterious, disoriented teenage boy from the year 2199.
Yeah, pretty cool to have like 3 authors of Asian descent on the long list. Hopefully one of them will make it to, hopefully all of them.
The short list.
Will make it to the short list and win the award. Definitely interested in, potentially checking out all of these books for the book club at some point. So always cool to have more books to add to our TBR pile, right?
Yeah.
All right. And now for the authors longlisted for the Translated Literature Award, we have The Tale of a Wall, Reflections on the Meaning of Hope and Freedom by Nasser Al-Busrar, translated from Arabic by Luke Liefgren. The Tale of a Wall is a passionate prison memoir from a Palestinian man incarcerated for over 30 years without parole in an Israeli prison. Al-Busrar shares how, during prolonged periods of solitary confinement, he turned to his imagination as a strategy for survival in this rumination on love, justice, and the far-reaching powers of hope. Also nominated is The Book Censor's Library by Bathania Al-Essa, translated from Arabic by Rania Abdelrahman and Sawad Hussein. The book follows an unnamed narrator who is hired as a book censor and tasked with identifying books not fit for publication, those that depict queerness, religion, education, and democracy. Concerned that his daughter's love of stories will put her in danger, the book censor joins an underground organization of clandestine booksellers and undercover librarians and develops a love for reading that fuels his mission to preserve history. Also nominated, Taiwan Travelogue by Yang Shuāng-zǐ, translated from Mandarin by Lin King. Set in 1930s Taiwan, the book follows a fictional Japanese writer and her relationship with the charming yet closed-off Taiwanese woman who serves as her interpreter. And finally, our last nominee of Asian descent is Where the Wind Calls Home by Samar Yazbek, translated from Arabic by Larry Price. The book is centered on a wounded 19-year-old soldier, Ali, who is fighting to survive in the Syrian civil war. Blurring timelines to mirror Ali's disoriented state, the book recounts the history of a country's cultural richness and religious traditions through vivid hallucinations, remembrances, and a chilling reminder of the painful realities of war.
So most of the authors who are nominated for this category, they are of West Asian descent, so Palestinian, Kuwaiti, and Syrian. And I'm so happy to see them all getting the recognition that they deserve, especially since so many of these books are on serious topics, censorship, war, and oppression, and fighting for survival. But Taiwan Travelogue also sounds like a pretty fun, cozy read. So I'm glad that that book made it into our list as well.
Yeah, interesting to explore I imagine a sapphic period piece in one of the first countries in Asia to legalize gay marriage. So I think that's pretty cool too. Really quickly, because we did go over this piece of news on our Boba chats, in which I guess most of you haven't had the chance to listen to because that's for our Patreon supporters. But there has been some controversy with the very popular, I guess, writing challenge, NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, which is the month of November, in which I guess they put out a statement, a really wild statement regarding their stance on AI, right?
Yeah, so I just pulled it up. They said, we also want to be clear in our belief that the categorical condemnation of AI has classist and ableist undertones, and that questions around the use of AI tie to questions around privilege. And obviously people were pissed, especially people in the disability community, because they're like, we are able to write books without stealing from other authors' works. And the fact that you're saying that you care about the disability community now by using us as a shield for plagiarism is wild.
Yeah.
But NaNoWriMo, they've been having a rough time. I think last year they got hit with another controversy with groomers in forums who were being inappropriate. And I know a lot of the original staff, they left NaNoWriMo. A lot of the mentors also stepped down. So I don't know who wrote this statement for AI, but it's the responsibility of one or two people. And yeah, it does not reflect well. Yeah, and this has been an ongoing conversation in the artist spaces about ChatGPT and how AI is being used, and is it considered art when art is usually the messy part of creating. It's the hard part. If everyone can be an artist, then they would choose to do it. So to kind of use AI as a cheat sheet, there's a lot of debate on it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, I think we talked about this during Boba Chat, but using AI to generate prompts or to help get you started or
kickstart your creativity.
Yeah, as opposed to relying on to write a whole damn novel, which, I think if that's how you want to write your novel or NaNoWriMo, like go right ahead. It's probably not gonna be good. It's probably gonna sound like word salad or like be rife with plagiarism, right? But like, I think the wild thing is couching backlash against AI as a ableist and classist thing. That's the part that really like pissed everyone off.
Yeah, because, like throughout history, we have seen disabled writers and writers who, suffer from mental illness. Like they are able to create phenomenal works. And it's like, yeah, you're also stealing from those very same writers because their works have been illegally used as data for like ChatGPT and OpenAI.
And I think the classist claim is the most ironic because the people who are probably most primed to cheating their way into being artists are probably more rich, privileged people than poor artists, right?
Yeah. And again, like if you use ChatGPT to write a novel, like I feel like it just defeats the purpose because, it's about writing is a skill. It's supposed to be something that you build up over time and practice. If you just have a machine do it for you, do you even feel a sense of accomplishment? No. And I've seen people use AI for fan fiction, and that's been like a whole topic in like the fan fiction AO3 sphere on Twitter. And it's like, can we please ban them? Because it's literally like, it's so embarrassing, because fan fiction is about like community and passion. And if you just decide to make, quote unquote, make fan fiction by using ChatGPT, it's like you have none of that heart. You have none of the human characteristics that make fan fiction.
Yeah, it's just playing Mad Libs at that point. Why not just commission someone to write it for you, right?
Yeah, like a real person. But I mentioned this in our Boba chat. There is this great essay by Ted Chiang on The New Yorker, and it's called Why AI Isn't Going to Make Art. And I highly recommend people to read it. But also, if you want to hear me rant more about AI and people who plagiarize and want to cosplay as artists, listen to our Boba Chat episode. I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, and if that interests you, head on over to our Patreon and become a Honey Boba member so you can gain access to our monthly bonus podcast Boba Chats as well. But yeah, with that, that'll do it for a mid-month book news check-in for September 2024. Rira, we are essentially 2 weeks away from our 8-year anniversary for Books and Boba.
Oh my God, it's been almost a decade. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's been. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking more about this in our next few episodes as
chat.
well. But like, man, can you believe it's been literally 2 election cycles have gone by since we started this podcast?
Yo, the fact that we started this podcast back in like 2016, like 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, but like literally a month before Trump became president. That is something. We have seen some things in our tenure as podcasters.
Yeah. So still unclear of what we're going to do to celebrate, but rest assured, we'll do something. So yes, looking forward to celebrating our 8 years together at the end of the month. But with that, that'll do it for this episode of Books and Boba. A quick reminder that our September 2024 book club pick is A Burning, a novel by Megha Majumdar. So if you're reading along, please let us know your thoughts on Discord or our Goodreads forums. As always, we'll be discussing the book at the end of the month and would love to include your thoughts in it as well. Thanks for listening to Books and Boba, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Books and Boba. This podcast was hosted by Marvin Yue and Rira Yu and edited and produced by Marvin Yue. Follow the book club on Twitter and Instagram by going to @BooksandBoba and engage with us on Goodreads on our Goodreads group. You can also check out past episodes of the podcast by going to booksandboba.com and by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast app. Don't forget, you can support Books and Boba and Asian American authors by purchasing books at our bookshop.org account. Check out the link in our show notes and also at booksandboba.com. Books and Boba is a proud member of the Potluck Podcast Collective, a collective of Asian American hosted podcasts featuring unique voices and stories from the Asian diaspora. Learn more about the collective and check out our fellow Potluck shows by visiting the website podcastpotluck.com. Thanks for listening.
Hey Brian, did you go to Saturday school as a kid?
I sure did. Did you?
Totally.
Well, at our podcast, Saturday School, we don't teach a language, but we pass along the culture that we do know.
And that's Asian American pop culture.
Ada's a journalist, and I'm a professor and film festival programmer.
We've watched a lot of great Asian American movies, and we want you to watch them too. Come listen to us as we look back at the pioneering films that have led us to today.